Most people who are trying to quit drinking or stop using substances aren't actually struggling so much with the substance itself, but moreover, struggling with that internal negotiation that is ongoing and extremely exhausting. So, if you're one of those people who is procrastinating on moving into your sober lifestyle, even though you're feeling the nudge to, you're feeling sober curious, perhaps a little sober ready, but you keep putting it off until the next event is over, the next celebration, till life calms down, or maybe worse, you're just trying to moderate and you're finding that that whole just one isn't working for you and you keep cycling in and out of that. This is totally for you. This is the video that I'm going to go over my 11-step framework to end that negotiation and that mental tug of war so you can stop being exhausted. Because when you're exhausted from this tug of war, you can't be strong enough to make the decisions and the changes that you need to in the first place. So stick with me today. I'm going to walk you through it. Hey, I'm Jennifer Sack. Thanks for hanging out with me here today. If you don't know who I am, I help sober curious and sober ready people who are feeling exhausted and split into two end the negotiation with themselves. I help them move into their sober lifestyle by calming their nervous system, cutting through all the fears, and help you really transition into that with clarity and self trust and confidence instead of sort of white knuckling your way through with discipline and willpower. That's not a way to go through it. I do want to mention that I am not a doctor, a therapist, or an addiction specialist. I'm just simply someone who struggled with substances day in, day out for decades. I now have 5 years of sobriety under my belt. I am a wellness professional. I've been in the field for over 10 years, and I've got a lot of educational and inspirational information to share with you. But if you feel like you need actual addiction help, mental health help, please seek that out from a professional. I highly encourage that. Today, we're going to talk about my 11-step framework to really stop that negotiation cycle. So, if that's you, if you're out there hemming and hawing all the time, wanting to be sober when you're using, and then when you're sober, wanting to use, and just going back and forth in and out cycling. I did that for years. This is for you. The mental negotiation and tug of war that goes on day in, day out, the shame, the guilt, all of that is so exhausting. And when you're exhausted, it's very hard to really kind of summon up the confidence and courage to move through and stay sober. So we need to end that trauma and end that sort of loop that you get stuck in. It's a stress loop to your nervous system and it keeps you stuck in the same cycles and keep repeating the same things. Once we can get you regulated and get you feeling empowered and find clarity and self-trust, moving into and staying in that sober lifestyle is going to be so much easier. And that's what we're going to work on today. And we're going to use my No More Negotiating guide. I've got a copy of it here. You can download a copy yourself. The link is in the description of this video. It's 27 pages chocked full of everything we're going to go over today, but it's a great thing for you to get on your own so that you can really sit with a journal and write your way through all of this. This is something you could potentially fill out in an afternoon. It's something that you could take in bite-sized pieces in sequential order, I suggest, and really marinate in each part of it for, a day each and kind of just make this like a 2-week journey if you wanted to. It is $7, but I wanted to keep it a low price point so that it's accessible to everyone and it's well worth every penny. But we will go through it all today. So hang with me and let's flesh that out. So, again, I just want to reiterate that this is really for those people who are suspecting that drinking or using substances is just not for them anymore. Probably didn't hit rock bottom. You might not have hit rock bottom, had a DUI or some momentous occasion happen. You might just be feeling the nudge like, I don't think this is right anymore. It doesn't feel aligned. You might be someone who had some of those tumultuous things happen and you're like, I need to quit, but I'm struggling. This could be for both of you. So just stick with me either way. You may have tried moderation, which is something I don't believe in. If you are someone who is an addict like I am, moderation does not work. It does not work. It keeps you stuck in cycles over and over again. But maybe you've tried it, depending on your level of addiction. That may work for some time, maybe not at all. This is going to help you through that as well. If you've promised yourself just one and you can't really kind of hang tight to that, I get it. If you restarted multiple times and gone in and out of the cycle, I have been there with you so many times, more times than I can count. Sometimes I was sober for months, sometimes for days, sometimes for hours, that bad. So I totally understand the sort of loop that you get in, the self trust that breaks every time that you go back to doing something that you promised yourself again you wouldn't. How embarrassing it can be to promise everybody or to declare out loud to others that you're done and then fall back and have egg on your face when you go back to your old ways. And sometimes there's those that applaud it because they're doing it with you, and sometimes there's those that are sad because they were hopeful that this was really the time that you were going to move on. If you're just tired of the mental debate, like I said, that is one of the most exhausting factors, and really, it was the thing, the clincher that got me to finally quit. I just couldn't take the mental exhaustion anymore. I was so over the cycle that it put me in. You make that sort of like declaration of change, so you reset, and then you have a setback, and then you get into a shame cycle, and then you reset, and then you have a setback, and you get in the shame cycle, and it goes over and over again. And you wonder, what is wrong with me? Why? Why can't I just stop? It's exhausting. So we're going to really move through that today, get beyond that so that you can stop that cycle. And this is not to convince you to quit. It's for the moment when you already know that something has to change. Okay. So I want you to know that I'm not pushing sobriety on anybody. It's personal choice. No one could ever make you get sober. No one can. They can try, but until you want to, until you feel that internal nudge and that knowing, it's not going to land. And that's why I'm here to support you in that moment when you're like, all right, enough is enough, okay? And if this sort of content resonates with you, I just encourage you to hit that subscribe button because I talk all about this, all about sobriety, all about nervous system regulation, and rebuilding the self trust as well, because that's a large thing that comes along with staying sober and doing it with confidence. So hit that subscribe button if that's you so you can keep getting more of my content into your feed and keep growing in this way and transitioning into that sober lifestyle with confidence and ease. All right, so let's dive right into the 11 steps with step number one. And this is really all about starting to end that negotiation cycle. This is about making a pro and con list. Now, most people think that they need to keep thinking about sobriety and really sort of mulling it over and the ins and outs. But here's the thing, that's exhausting. It's also a trap. I'm one of those too that I think I can think my way out everything. You will think yourself into stress and keep repeating the same cycles. It's not relief, it's more anxiety. That's all you're doing. And the more anxious you are, the more you're going to want to use your substances to cope with it. So we need to eliminate the anxiousness. We need to regulate your nervous system. And a really good way of doing that is to write one final list: the good, the bad, the ugly, the fantasies, the consequences. I want you to spill your beans on everything on paper. Everything about getting sober or using that you have feelings about, and be honest. There are things about using your substances that feel really good and you're going to miss. Get honest about the bad shit that happens too. The hangovers, the way you feel, the shame and guilt, the embarrassing moments, perhaps the hiding, the feeling split in two between who you show yourself to as a world and who you really are behind closed doors. Talk about the ugly shit, the fantasies that you have about how it could be or how you maybe should be, and really get it all out on paper. I want you to think about the consequences. Write down any consequences you've experienced. Write down the consequences you fear having to experience if you keep down the same path, and the consequences you fear having to experience about moving into your sober lifestyle, losing relationships and friendships, things changing, not knowing how to cope. I want you to write it all out, get it out of your stinking head, because you will just keep looping it around and around. And when it is out of your brain on paper, then you can stop replaying it over and over and over. You just need to purge it out. You ever remember on Mean Girls, they talk about word vomit? I want you to like word vomit on the paper everything you feel about both sides of the camp, being sober and staying using your substances of choice. Okay. That is step number one. Moving into step number two, we're going to dive a little deeper into this. And I want you to go into the fears. I want you to really flesh out the fears here. So, what happens is when fear is unnamed, it holds a ton of power. It has a strong hold on your emotions and on your nervous system. And a lot of it is underlying, and we don't always want to face them. We would rather shut them down and put some more substances in our body and numb it out. But when we take away all that and we start to face the fears, they lose their power. They become something workable. So I want you to really dive into the biggest fears you have about becoming sober. Is it about losing fun times? Is it about losing your identity? Maybe you truly identified yourself as a super like chill person or the fun party girl. What identity are you afraid of losing there? Is it some social discomfort that you're afraid of? How are you going to hang out with people? How are you going to fit in? Are you afraid of being seen differently? I remember being afraid of like being sober because then it meant that I had a problem and I didn't want to admit that to anybody else. I didn't want them to know. And I also didn't want to stand out. You know, it felt very like glaringly obviously if you're the only one not drinking or using. And for some people, that's terrifying to stand out. You just want to like fit in and fly under the radar. So, are you afraid of that? Are you afraid of how others are going to see you? Are they going to label you? Are they going to treat you differently? Are you afraid about how you're going to actually cope with anxiety or pressures without relying on your substance of choice? Like, that is a very valid fear. A lot of us are using it to cope, to numb, to escape really uncomfortable feelings. What are you afraid of? And once you have all the real, raw fears written down, I want you to dive underneath them and ask yourself, what is beneath this fear? So if it's social discomfort, and you're like, I don't know if I'll fit in anymore. The real fear beneath that, for example, could be, what if I don't belong? What if I am lonely? I'm terrified of being alone. That's a very honest and raw, very real, very understandable fear. But see how it's the layer underneath the topical fear of like, what if I don't fit in? Down it's here, it's like, I'm terrified to be alone. So it's going a layer underneath. So think about that. Think about what your fears are, and I want you to go through each one by one and go underneath it another layer. What is the true fear beneath that topical surface level fear? I want you to remember as you're doing this, take some deep breaths, take your time with it, really understand what's going on beneath it, and allow yourself some grace. Sometimes dealing with our fears can bring up a lot of stuff. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have moments where you just need to breathe your way through it. It's okay to walk away and come back to this exercise. But it is something that's very important because the more you can face the fear, name it, and understand it, the less power it'll have over you. All right, step number 3 is all about naming your procrastination stories. We all have them. We're going to put things off until later because X, Y, and Z. So everyone has these. I want you to know that there are certain ones that we all cling to and we use over and over again for many areas of our life, not just sobriety. So I want you to start noticing what your procrastination stories are. When it comes to sobriety, a lot of things are like, well, after this event, you'll know a big event is coming up and it's going to be a big party atmosphere and you don't want to miss out. You don't want to lose out on that. So you're like, well, after that, then I'll do it. Or the holidays, that's the big one. After the holidays, I don't know why everyone uses the holidays as a total like free for all for eating junk and getting drunk. It's not. Or just they're like, I'm so stressed in the holidays, I need my substances to cope. We use that always. Stressful events, that's another one, another procrastination method. Like, well, after this stressful event, then I'll be able to do this. Newsflash, there is always going to be a stressful event in your life. If you don't ever learn how to move through that, you're never going to move beyond this cycle. Okay, that was just a segue, but start thinking about the other procrastination stories and narratives that you have in your life. So, just saying when things calm down or when you're ready, or I don't know, there's a ton of them. What are yours? You need to listen to your bullshit. You need to like really look at it right now because these procrastination stories are not logic. They're actually fear disguised as like timing, as like a sensible timing. And it's not. You're just afraid and you're using some sort of reason to make it seem logical to wait on something that you already know you're ready for. And like I said, it's not logical because you're always going to have an event. You're always going to be facing the holiday season. You're always going to have stressful moments. You're always going to not feel ready. So you're going to have to move through those and call yourself out. So what are your particular procrastination stories that you like to use? All right, step number 4 is very important in anything that you try and do in life. If you ever want to just be aligned, this is a great way to do it. We're going to use it in the case of ending the mental negotiation and moving into your sober lifestyle. And what you're going to do is you're going to find your North Star or your real why. This is because motivation ends. we get really hyped up sometimes, very invigorated about the thought of change, and we ride a high for a little while. And then as the going gets tough, as some time wears on, that motivation tends to fade. And that sort of dopamine hit you had from the initial high of something new wears off, and you're left in the trenches without that motivation, so to speak. So, what you really want to do is find something that keeps you going. So, your North Star, your core values, your why are what anchor you into this change, which anchor you through this transition and keep you going. It's something you will continually pivot back to anytime you need, every day that you need to remember why you're doing this. Because there's going to be so many times that you falter, that you have opposing thoughts come up, that you have old conditioning arise, and you're going to need to anchor back to this all the time. So what I suggest is that you go online, you Google, or Chat GPT, whatever, a list of like 100 core values. There's a ton of them out there, worksheets, lists, whatever, and you look through it. And I want you to just sort of first glance, circle the ones that are very resonant to you. And there's probably going to be a lot because there's a lot on there that you're like, yeah, love is one of mine, health is one of mine, connections one of mine. I mean, there's so many things. You might feel like circling all of them, but try to just circle some, and then you need to keep narrowing it down, like one pass at a time. Cut things out till you get to like three tops, probably maybe five tops, core values that you could really stand by. And these core values could be something that fully support your sobriety and vice versa, something that your sobriety fully supports back. So it's a reciprocal action, it's a reciprocal thing. So, for example, you might choose integrity. Like, integrity is one of my core values. Having integrity means moving forward in alignment with what is right for you and being honest and true while doing that, right? So, sobriety, if it's feeling the right thing for you to do, is like, I'm going to have integrity and move forward with that because I know that it's aligned. This is my integrity. Staying in this old lifestyle is not of integrity for me because it's no longer aligned. S- In the same sense, being sober completely supports your integrity because it's doing exactly what feels right for you, and it's keeping you very clear, conscious, and present, which is where integrity lies because you can't really do anything with integrity if you're not present, right? Same thing if you're like, okay, health. Health is a core value of mine. It's a North Star. It's something, it's my why. I'm doing this for my health. Maybe you have a reason for your health that you absolutely need to do this. So, the health, having that as a why, as a North Star, is going to keep you sober because you're going to know I need to do this in order to uphold this value of health. And vice versa, being sober is going to help out your why, your health. So weed them out. There's a lot of core values we all have. We're like, yeah, I stand for family. I stand for this. I stand for all of these things. But think about what really stands to help you in the vice versa situation with your sobriety and weed it down to like three, maybe five if you can't do three top core values that are your why that you can keep coming back to. They are your North Star. They just keep aligning you. Every time you get distracted, every time you feel tired, every time the old conditioning pops up, every time somebody's like, come on, come with me, come to this, do this, that you can just remember and reset and anchor down with that core value. It is a tremendous, tremendous help. I guarantee you this one thing right here can help catapult you into your sober lifestyle, build the foundation of which you stand on, build self trust, and move you confidently in that direction. Step five is to take a very honest look at ourselves, and it's called devoted to, loyal to, and invested in. And I want you to be very honest in writing down what it is that you have been devoted to, loyal to, and invested in the last, say 2 years of your life. What have you really put your energy towards? This can be a very harrowing thought. It can be a very sobering, no pun intended, thought, or journey as you write these down and you really start to trace back. Now, don't get into the weeds here. Don't go into the trauma. Try and keep this as surface level as you can, almost like you're just like scientifically looking from a 30,000-foot view at your life and write down the facts and the figures. Try not to get back into the trauma, the drama, and engulfed in the emotions that may come up when you start seeing it. Don't go into the guilt and shame cycle or spiral. Try and avoid that. I want you just to topically look at this. Like, what really have I been invested in, loyal to, and devoted to? That's really um, sometimes a very raw thing that we need to look at. We have to be honest with ourselves. I'm all about accountability. This is going to hold you accountable because once you see it for what it is, it's going to give you a ton of clarity. It's going to enlighten you, all of the things, make you feel like, all right, I see it for what it is. And sometimes the answer is painful, but try not to get into that emotional spiral. Just keep it very like surface level, like, yep, factual. Okay, I see this. And then rewrite the list. You're going to flip that. What are you choosing now, moving forward, to be devoted to, loyal to, and invested in? Okay, so that's why we're just going to not berate ourselves, not get stuck in the doldrums, not get into the shame cycle or spiral. I want you to look forward. We're only using this as a frame of reference, not to guilt yourself or shame yourself. We're only using this as a frame of reference so that you can now rewrite the future, how you're moving from this point on. What are you choosing now to be devoted to be loyal to, and to be invested in? Write it down and really hold it up then to your core values that you just chose in the last step. Does it align? That's a big one. You need to make sure that it really aligns with those. If what you're choosing to be devoted to, loyal to, and invested in does not align with your core values, does not align with your sober lifestyle, your choice to be sober, you need to tweak it because it really needs to jive. And that's what's going to help you as you move forward to continually pour your energy into the very thing that is your why so that you can totally find a solid ground to move forward on. Step 6 involves grieving. That sounds really dark, but it's very, very natural and it's very necessary. You need to grieve the loss of your old identity because sobriety does involve loss. It truly does. And we can hype things up. We can be motivational all that we want. We can, have the quotes and all the fake positivity out there. And I mean, not all of it's fake positivity. Some of it's really great, right? But I want to be honest with you. Sobriety involves loss. You will change. Things will change. Let's not ignore that. We need to integrate that process into our transition. So you really need to understand all of the things that you're going to lose. And you might not know what they are until you start to go through them, but the things that you can kind of pick up on that you already know, maybe you've experienced in your trials and tribulations of trying to moderate, or the times that you have been sober and whether or not you went back, how many times, whatever. You've maybe had a taste of these things, right? You need to grieve them. You need to grieve the loss of your rituals that you had. So maybe there was a certain way that you came home, used your substances to decompress, or the way you connected with others, an identity that perhaps you linked to this substance abuse, a way that you personified yourself. Again, social habits come into play, certain friendships that might need to be set aside or change in the way your dynamic is and how you guys connect and hang out. Um, there's going to be a lot that has to be set aside and altered. And if you can already see some of those things, they're probably the very things that you're afraid of changing. Just notice that it's very real. The potential is very real that you will lose some of these things. It will be altered. I want you to grieve that loss. It's okay. You must grieve the comfort that you're giving up because substances are that quick comfort. They are a security blanket for us. They're a very fast path from A to Z, from numbing out. It's a really quick way to regulate our nervous system, even though we're really dysregulating it in the long run and causing a ton more anxiety. I can get into that on another episode. But you've got to really grieve the loss of that quick fix comfort. You're going to have to find other ways to regulate and find that comfort in other things. You're going to have to grieve the loss of that version of you that existed. And you're also going to take the time here to forgive. So you're grieving all that's moving out and you're going to forgive. because you're not going to get stuck in a shame cycle and a big emotional stress loop. You're going to instead forgive the choices that you made that bore no great consequences, that put you in this cycle, that perpetuated themselves. Just forgive those choices. You can do that. There is no value in continuing to carry those as like a weighted backpack. No value. Okay, you've learned your lesson. Forgive it. Move on. You need to forgive that you have relied on your substances to cope if that's you. Forgive it. You don't need them to cope. You're going to learn other ways to do that. Forgive yourself for using the easy way out. Okay, forgive yourself for any mistakes you've made, anybody you've hurt along the way. If you need to apologize, go ahead. You don't have to though. Really, what you need to do is forgive yourself because a lot of what keeps us stuck and not moving on is the shame and the guilt that we feel. And when we can learn to forgive ourselves of that, we actually open the doors to being better because we're not punishing ourselves anymore. And we allow ourselves to deserve better. And we can embrace it instead of just feeling like, I don't deserve to be better. I don't deserve that. You do. 100% you do. Everybody does. Forgive yourself. Okay. Those are the two things I want you to do in the step 6. Grieve the loss of the things that are going to change and that you used for your comfort, and then forgive yourself. Because without this, shame is going to block everything. Step number 7 is simple and hard at the same time. It's simple and that's short and sweet. You need to lock in your commitment fully. This is the line in the sand moment. And I will tell you, when I made that final decision that I was going to become sober and I was not going back, there was none of it. 90% of the weight offloaded. 10% of it was still there because it was a whole bunch of unknown, but it was really truly the first time I could exhale. So even though this might feel terrifying, terrifying, think about the relief you will feel when there's no more negotiation because it's that back and forth that's keeping you stuck in the cycle and that's exhausting you. And then when you're exhausted, you keep going back and forth because you have no willpower left. You have no energy left for discipline. You have none of that. You'll just cycle back through. So you keep your eye on the prize, and that is relief. Relief is the prize, not sobriety. Relief is the prize. And when you can make a final decision, you take out all these other factors. They just become non negotiables. It's easy. It makes things very fucking simple. Okay, so make a line in the sand. And if you're like, I'm not ready for that, I'm not ready for that, I'm not ready for that, imagine what it would be like to do that. Okay, I just want you to like feel that out. Imagine what it would be like to do that. How might it feel? Just explore it internally in your body. Because I'm telling you, commitment does not come from force. It doesn't come from white knuckling your way through. It doesn't come from inspirational quotes. It comes from clarity. It comes from feeling it in your body that you are ready, that you are making a decision, maybe not even ready. I might even take that back, that you are just making a decision, ready or not, because you're going to be okay either way. You're going to be okay. Promise you that. The key message here is that sobriety is not about restriction. It's truly about self-authority. And this is where you start to gain your self-trust back. Because I understand that when you have gone back and forth many times, when you've waffled, you lose, you chip away at that self-trust. This right here, that line in the that line in the sand moment, that real locking in your commitment moment is when that self-authority finds ground and you start to build upon it and it gets firmer and firmer and that self-trust is going to build every time. Every little action you take with consistency that builds over time will build that self-trust back up, and this is where you begin. Step number 8 is all about building some balance in your life. I want you to look at all these aspects of your life. Some people have done like the wheel of 12. I've done it before. I think maybe it's the wheel of 11. I don't like all the aspects of your life. Let's narrow it down. Let's narrow it down to 4 aspects of your life that we're going to try and balance out because sobriety cannot exist in a whirlwind, in a vacuum. You need some balance there. And when you are balanced, when everything feels balanced, sobriety becomes so much easier. And that balance will support your sobriety and your sobriety will support the balance. So let's look at four areas of your life. I want you to, on a piece of paper, just draw like a cross. So you have four quadrants, and I want you to write relationships on the top of one quadrant, work on the other, play on the other, and you can do like inner life or spirituality, whatever on the fourth one. You can write connection there. Everybody sees this differently. It's really nothing religious. It's just about what really lights you up. And I want you to spend some time to look at those four areas of your life and really assess how much on like a level of 1 to 10 um, those are doing for you. Like at 10, everything's great, wouldn't change a thing. One, holy moly, I need to change some things. This is out of whack, not going well. And see what you can do. Like rate them first. Where are you on the level of 1 to 10 in each of those four areas of your life? And then I want you to see what actions can you apply that are going to balance out those areas. And how is sobriety, more importantly, how will your being sober support balancing those four areas of your life? So perhaps your work has gone to shit because you're drunk all day or you're hungover when you show up. So maybe you're like a two at your work. Well, now in sober lifestyle, sober you, how do you think that's going to balance out? It's going to be a lot better. You're going to have the energy. You're going to sleep at night. Things aren't going to feel as hard. The tasks that get put on your plate are going to be like, okay, easy breezy, got this. Ooh, so much more balance in that area of your life. Now take it through all four quadrants and just rate them for what they are now and how sobriety is going to help support balance those out. And then write down some action steps that can even help calibrate those even better because when they are balanced, they help your sobriety. And in turn, your sobriety is going to help balance them out naturally. This is a very fun way to kind of turn this very deep exercise of all the other steps we're doing into something that feels tangible, that gives you hope because you realize that, oh, yeah, getting sober is actually going to elevate my life so much more. Not necessarily take away, because we just got done talking about loss and grief. And so it kind of leaves you in this like space of, oh no, this is that part where you get to raise yourself back up and be like, aha. However, look at all these things that are going to get better. They're going to balance out. Look at the relief I have on the horizon. This is going to be fabulous. This is going to be great. Not fake positivity. This is real. This will really happen. So I just want you to remember the sobriety really thrives when your life is in balance, and it also really comes from this supportive decision that you are getting in balance. Sobriety is going to help you do so, and in turn, being in balance will help you stay sober. All right, step 9. This is a big one. This is where you really start to build more on that self authority. And this is all about setting your standards. This is about raising your standards. This is about understanding what you've been tolerating and what you're no longer going to tolerate. I want you to really look at your own behaviors too. This isn't just about your environment, but your own behaviors. What have you been doing that you've been tolerating that you know is not in alignment, is not helping you stay sober or move into that sober lifestyle? Be honest with yourself. There's no reason to fake yourself out here, to deceive yourself, to just be very, what's the word, like a watered down answer here. Be honest. What have you been tolerating that you're doing that is not helping you out? What are you no longer now going to tolerate? Do that for each one of these things that come up that you think about. So your own behavior, I want you to think about toxic dynamics that you are involved in your surroundings. So could be relationships, could be what you're feeding your mind with when you get on your TV, on Netflix, on your social media. What are you putting into yourself from the outside environment? Relationships around you. We have tons of relationships. What are you not willing to tolerate anymore? What have you been tolerating? What are you no longer willing to tolerate in those relationships, in those dynamics that are not helping you out? What about people who are undermining you? No longer tolerating that. Who have you allowed to cut you down, to keep you from growing, to hold you back, to gaslight you? What have you been tolerating? And then list out what you're no longer going to tolerate. It's pretty much the same thing. It's what you've been tolerating that's not helping you. So it's an easy flip of the coin. Not going to do that anymore. Not going to allow that anymore. Not going to, but why do we flip it? Because that takes us out of victim mode of what you've been tolerating and puts you in empowerment and self authority mode of not doing that anymore, not allowing that. No, my new standard is this. And then everything has to uphold to that or it goes away. Simple as that. You have new standards and you're going to write them out now. This is going to create so much clarity in your life, so much authority, and the boundaries that are going to make you feel safe again. Because when you can uphold your boundaries and have clear definitions and clear standards that you make known to yourself and to others that they need to behave in this way around you or they're out, you have calmed your nervous system because there's no if, and, or buts anymore. No if, ands, or buts anymore. This is a standard that you are holding, a boundary that you're holding, and you can relax into that. And you literally will feel yourself shift inside when you are clear about these. So do not skip this exercise. Extremely important. Make sure you're doing it. Here we are on step 10. Now, this is all about preparation. We really need to envision and be prepared for life moving forward because most of relapse is really not just desire or urges that come up, it's the lack of preparation. It's not knowing how to handle situations, not anticipating them. We need to really visualize them before they happen so we know when X happens, this is what I will do because it's going to happen. You can probably anticipate a lot of these things. So you need to understand what your patterns are. When you get stressed, you need to understand what kind of level of social discomfort you have in certain situations. Um, if you tend to get bored in certain places and that triggers you to want to use substances. If it's a certain time of day, maybe it's like I've said before, the transition from like work to home. Maybe that's like your pouring the glass of wine, just dialing it down and relaxing. Think about all the times during your day that cause you to feel the urge to use stressful moments, social moments, moments of like boredom and that transition. I'm trying to think of other ones, things that would, you know what, for me, it was like watching certain shows too, where they like drink all the time. Whoa, that's going to trigger me. So I'm going to plan ahead. Not going to watch that show because I know when I watch it, I'm going to crave a drink and then it's going to start this whole thing. I'm going to start negotiating with myself. I'm going to start backsliding. I'm going to have to employ all these tools. That's what I'm talking about. Anticipating the things that you already know trigger you into being like, I would really like to use right now or drink or whatever. And then you're going to be prepared with what you can do instead. So things that are easier, like, don't watch the show that's going to trigger you. Right? But there's other things you can do, like self-regulation tools, like grounding exercises, breathing exercises, just movement. I really got deeper into working out instead of using because it was a great way to release pent-up energy and distract myself, and it had other amazing benefits. It's just stepping outside, getting some fresh air, connecting to the sounds and the sensations of being outside. Meditation, all sorts of tools that you can use, like have them in your back pocket. That's why I really suggest getting my 7-day energy reset. I'll put that in the description as well as a link because that's going to actually literally me with you for 7 days in your inbox, walking you through finding what your 1 to 2 top grounding techniques, top regulating techniques are that you're going to keep in your back pocket and practice regularly. Because I really, really highly suggest that you know how to regulate yourself before you try and transition into your sober lifestyle, especially if you were somebody who used substances as a way to cope with stress and anxiety, depression, all of these things. You need to understand how you can rely on yourself rather than the substances to move through these and regulate yourself. It really will empower you. So it takes a lot of the fear out, like, how am I going to cope when I need to? If you know that you can and you're used to using those tools, then that just takes away that element. It makes it much easier. So I highly, highly recommend that you get used to using regulation tools on the regular. Okay, so with that being said, I really want you to understand what your triggers are, what your patterns are, and come up with a game plan. Write it down. When I feel stressed, I'm going to do a breathing exercise. That's just an example. When I come home from work, instead of pouring a glass of wine, I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to slip on some cozy PJs. I'm going to put on some music and dance, something else, right? Movement, anything that distracts you, feels good, gives you the same sort of maybe dopamine hit or, just gives you something to look forward to as well. Think about all the things. and then find your solution. That's going to help you out because a lot of the urges are just like a nervous system dysregulation, not actual cravings. So you need to be prepared to deal with those ahead of time and take away the things that you know are going to disrupt your peace, that are going to make you have to really use discipline and willpower. We don't want that. We want you to just be able to slide through life, even keel. Don't give yourself reasons to have to white knuckle your way through this, okay? And when you do, find those moments, use your tools, remember your core values or your why, your North Star. Remember all that. It's going to really help ground you and move you through successfully. All right, we've made it to step 11, and this one is really the domino effect. This is the rewarding part of it all. This is when you stop betraying yourself. This is when self authority is turned on, self trust is building, and you begin to notice so much more. You have way clearer thinking going on. There's a level of clarity that wasn't there before when you start having this really continued sobriety. You have much stronger intuition. You also experience a lot less tolerance for misalignment. You're going to no longer just accept things, you're going to find yourself speaking up. That is a huge one that I noticed. Like, no longer was the people pleaser or the one keeping it copacetic around. Suddenly it was like, actually, no, this is how I feel and this is what I want. And that really kind of does stem from that whole exercise we did on like, what are your new standards? You start to really flex that muscle of like, what do you want? What aligns with you? Call it out, claim it, and don't allow anybody to push you around to throw you off, So you really start to build this muscle. I'm not saying you have to become some domineering bitch, but you really start to build this self authority and this like no tolerance for bullshit anymore. You're like, sorry, I don't have time for that. I don't have the energy for that, and I don't need to tolerate that. And that is an amazing way to be. And people will start respecting you so much more. The way you show up energetically when you have some sobriety under your belt and you start building self-trust and authority and you're clear, you can communicate, you have intuition, you're like dialed in. What you put out energetically is so much more what is the word, powerful and sort of demanding in terms of people respecting you, but it just naturally comes back to you. That energy naturally bounces back to you because um, it's just about energetic mirroring. So when you put that out, others are going to be like, whoa, okay, I should fall in line, or they fall away. And that's okay too. So these stronger boundaries that show up also are really great because that is just going to help you so much more. You come into your own, and that's why I always say sobriety is like coming home to yourself. It feels like for a long time you were escaping yourself, you were running from feelings, you were chasing other feelings, you were numbing out, you were tolerating, and now you don't do that anymore. Now you are in charge of your energy, you're in charge of your environment, you're in charge of what you allow. You have strong boundaries, you're connected, you're tuned in, you're turned on, and you are really an authority. And it changes every aspect of your life. It's incredible. But until you start experiencing that, and you just got to trust me until that time comes, until you start experiencing that, it feels foreign. It seems like, "Oh, I don't know if that's me. I don't think I could do that." But I'm telling you, sobriety is not the end goal here. It's relief, for one, and it's self authority over your own life for two. That's the price at the end of it all, not just being sober. Okay. So I want you to reframe that a little bit. Don't make sobriety this huge obstacle, this huge thing. Really, what you're getting in return and rewarding yourself with and stepping into your own power and leading your own life, I mean, that prize is huge and nobody can take that away from you. So minimize the brevity of this sobriety thing and think about what's really coming on, what's really happening here. It's huge. It's a great thing. It's an amazing thing. Sobriety is just a little bump in the road that you get over and you work your way through. So, as I mentioned, all of these steps come from my e-guide. It's the No More Negotiating e-guide. It is right here. It's Sober Ready Guided Commitment to Self-Authority. This thing's chocked full, 27 pages, and it's got everything we went over and a little more in depth, even in its own perspective. And I really highly encourage you get it. It's not free. It's $7. I'll tell you that. It's worth every penny. And you're thinking, well, I just watched this video, so why do I need this? I'll tell you, hearing something and actually doing the work are two different things. So I do encourage you watch the video again, use that with a journal if you want to. But getting this guide, whether or not you print it out or just keep it as something that you view as you work alongside in a journal, is going to help you 100 times more. You're going to have the time to be able to self reflect, read the words, write down your answers, mull it over, marinate in it. You just get a greater impact. Okay. So I'm just going to be full blown, transparent, and honest with you on that. You will get more out of it if you do that. If you want to just rely on this video, that's exactly why I put it out here. I wanted to give you that. I wanted to give you the value of that. I hope that it's doing something for you, igniting a spark, making you think, really allowing you to envision that this is possible and that it has a reward, that it's very rewarding. I want to also mention that in the checkout for the digital product, there is an added bonus that you can only get when you're checking out and purchasing my e-guide. And that is a very amazing resource, and it's called the Daily Strength Audio. So, this audio that's really kind of a companion, I call it a companion audio because it goes along beautifully with the No More Negotiating e guide, only available during the checkout, is not a meditation. It's not a bunch of affirmations. It's really a 7-minute recalibration, you guys. This means you can do it on the go. This is like not something you have to sit down and meditate to. You can if you want to, but it's really all about just being able to pop it in, listen to it. It reinforces your sober identity. It's going to bring you back to your values. It's going to help you when things get a little wobbly. If you have any urges, stress, temptation, or if you just want to use it as like a morning grounding to kind of like set the tone while you're getting ready, brushing your teeth, all the things, just listen to it to really allow you to be firm in your decision, to feel grounded and good, to keep that doubt at bay, keep it from creeping in. It really helps you embody the decision that you've made. Instead of just thinking about it, you'll embody it. So easy just to listen to that and integrate it into you. Highly, highly recommend that you use that as a companion to the guide, because once you make the decision, it's just really about integrating it and embodying it. And this is going to help you do that. 7 minutes. It's only $13 to add on, and you have it to listen to always, right? I'll keep it up always for you because it's such an amazing thing. I listen to it still. 5 years of sobriety under my belt, and I still like to listen to this audio. All right, thanks so much for making it this far in the video with me. I really hope it provided a lot of value. I would love if you would share it with anybody that you feel might benefit from it. Like, subscribe if you want more of this content. And again, I encourage you to download the e-guide because this bad boy is going to help you sit down, journal through the framework, maybe take a couple passes through it, get the audio to help you embody and integrate everything and stay strong in this transition, even if you haven't made the decision yet and you're just sober curious, but you're like on the verge. Starting to envision this as a natural state, as a natural progression, is going to take a ton of the fear out. Ton of the fear out. And beyond that, I just want you to remember that sobriety really isn't about becoming a different person. It's really just no longer being a person who is constantly negotiating with themselves. Because once you feel inside that this behavior, the continuing of using substances, is no longer aligned with you, that cannot be undone. And then that's when all the trauma starts because you are going to negotiate with yourself until you move through the transition. And it's not a fun place to be until you pass through the gates. And this is going to really help support you in knowing how to do that and what to do after to make that a sustainable way. All right. Find all the links for everything I talked about in the description. And beyond that, I'm just so grateful that you're here. And I wish you all of the luck and all the best. Comment, email me, anything you need for support. I'm here for you. So until next time, my friends, I just wish you more peace, more relief, more clarity, and more strength. You've got this.